بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam and in humanity, this is just my take on what I am seeing in the wake of the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Of course, if you have any other views, I will be really grateful if you could comment, if you have another take on things. Now, I spoke about the situation regarding the real reason for what's going on, which is gas. And there's two things that we need to talk about. Of course, it is bewildering. How did we get to this stage? How did this come about? If Hamas is not complicit. And another thing we need to talk about is how the masks have come off and the veneer of respectability has completely gone. Now, usually people think that when there's some kind of conspiracy, that requires agents. So theoretically, Israel would have agents in Hamas, causing Hamas to do something, thus causing the retaliation or giving an excuse to retaliate. So Israel can proceed on the genocide. But it doesn't actually work like that. The fact of the matter is Hamas is a prescribed terror organization in Britain and in France and in America and in Canada and in the United Arab Emirates and in Saudi. However, it's not in the rest of the world. In fact, the UN recognized Hamas as a government authority, and they also recognize Hamas as a resistance organization, as it is completely legitimate under international law to resist an occupier. Israel, or what is known as Israel, has been occupying Palestine illegally since 1967, and of course morally the whole occupation started in 1948. But if we look at legality, the region that Hamas is in is an occupied region, and according to international law, they are within their rights to resist occupation. So what does Israel do to get Hamas to take an action? They can either recruit spies and double agents, or what they can do is they can create a situation where they know if they do a certain thing, it will trigger a certain response. And this is what happened in this case. Now, all resistance organizations train and they have plans for specific eventualities. What Israel did was Israel was negotiating with Hamas regarding the gas fields that are off the shore of Gaza, and they reached a stalemate. Once they reached a stalemate, well, the stalemate was basically they didn't want to give Hamas a share of the gas that is underneath their land. They didn't want to give the Palestinians a share of the gas that's underneath their land. So what did they do? they let out a bit of information that there was a plan to go into Gaza and assassinate all the leaders of Hamas. So Hamas found out, obviously, because it had been leaked out, and took the action that they took on the 7th of October. So what Hamas did was basically a preemptive strike. This triggered the chain of events that we all know, which is now translating to genocide in Gaza. Now, if we look internationally and even locally here in Great Britain, we find that the true colors of people have appeared. The people who were yesterday preaching tolerance to the extent that you can identify as a lamppost, and that would be all fine and dandy. Tolerance to the extent that you can't even tell your child whether it's a boy or a girl because they are so tolerant of transgender, and the tolerance of LGBTQ plus and all of that business. And their alleged anti-racism policies all went out of the window. Now it is open season on Muslims and open season on Arabs. If you look at the way politicians are speaking, they have gone to the extent of actually accusing people who are marching for a ceasefire. They're accusing them of being Hamas sympathizers. Even those people who are Jewish are getting accused of being Jew haters and Hamas sympathizers. An example is this rant that is from a former MP of a Labour Party, of all parties, who was in the Friends of Israel committee, and obviously is Jewish. But if you look at the rant and you see the hysterical rant that he is he's acting out, really. I feel that he's acting out. But you can see the sentiment, how it is.
It needs to be defeated, because if it's not defeated here, it will take root on the streets of London. We already saw 100,000 people marching from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. That means
more than 100,000. I was there.
People.
And it wasn't frightening at all.
People here in Israel, James.
And most importantly, we are talking about a conflict where people are dying. I don't care if this bloke doesn't like me. I don't care if I like him.
You support evil Hamas. I do not. And right-thinking people.
Okay, I obviously don't support evil Hamas. If he were listening evil to what I'm saying,
child killers,
I'm saying that
women rapers. Child beheaders, yes, evil Hamas, James.
Now, he isn't alone in this sentiment. People in the media who otherwise seem to be perfectly decent people have actually taken this stance to the extent that anybody calling for a ceasefire is suddenly a terrorist. So not only is Israel, but the British government and the American government and the French government and the German government and the Canadian government are adamant that no ceasefire will happen. Basically, they are adamant that Israel gets to kill as many Palestinians as they like. And this whole nonsense about Israel being a democracy, we know Israel is an apartheid state. And we know the sentiment of your average Israeli is basically they think that we are animals, in some cases worse than animals. And your average Joe in the street of Israel really doesn't feel shy about the notion of genocide. As for the religious ones, well, they will quote a verse to you to actually prove that that genocide is completely legitimate as long as it is not against a Jew. If it's against a Jew, then that's a different story. In fact, to harm a Jew is a terrible, terrible thing.
And what Israel has to do, which I'm hoping, of course, they will, is they're going to what's called raise Gaza. They're going to destroy it. What is important to understand, what the logic of the war is based on the divine plan.
There is no permission from the Torah to have any mercy whatsoever during war. Not on children, not on women, not on anybody.
You kill all men and all women, me'olel ve'ad yonek, even babies who breastfeed.
There is no mercy. You may think you're being merciful to a child, but you're not being merciful to the child. You're being vicious to the ultimate victim that this child will grow up and kill. Because the ideology that that child will grow up with is even worse than the ideology of his father. Hence the reason why the Torah in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 20, verse 16, says, rules of war, Lo techaye kol neshama, do not allow anyone to remain alive. Nothing. No mercy. Furthermore, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 25, verse 19, Macho et zecher Amalek, completely erase any memory of Amalek, which means men, women, and children, the Torah says, do not have the right to exist.
They actually managed to get away with this. I mean, this perpetual victimhood, I have never seen in my life of people who can actually commit genocide and still be the victims. But then again, the famous saying of Golda Meir, when she said, I will never forgive the Palestinians for making us kill their children. I mean, there's no answer to that one. There is no answer to that one. It is unfortunate that those of us who live in the West, I believe, are in for some pretty difficult times, as the public sentiment, even though there's a big public sentiment that is pro-Palestine, but the people that matter, the people who actually pull the strings, their sentiment is basically they have an appetite for genocide. Some people would put it down as a kind of echoes from European colonial mentality, where colonizing and taking people's land is something normal to them. What I say is it's a bit of that, but it is also racism that no matter how long we have not been able to eradicate from Western society. I'll give you an example, and I'm sure most of you know that in the United Arab Emirates, the Arabs represent only 10% of the population, but you don't find Arabs running around calling for the genocide of Indians or Pakistanis or whatever. However, here in Britain, for example, the population, the non-white population in this country is between 13 and 14%. And we never hear the end of the whinging and the xenophobia and the racism. And no matter how much diversity they preach and tolerance they preach, you touch a sensitive subject like Israel, and we go back to 1945 instead of 2023. So before October the 7th, there were people who preached tolerating just about everything, and now those same people who used to preach tolerating just about everything are insisting on committing genocide. It's a sad, sad state of affairs, and I wish we weren't in this situation. There is a concept of knowledge, and then there is internalized knowledge. I always knew that this is the case, but it has never been put to the test, where I see en masse people's true colors showing. I mean, to the extent that I saw a debate with an ex-cabinet minister, Dame Margaret Hodge, and she wouldn't even entertain admitting that there are civilian casualties amongst the Palestinians, because she reverted to her Zionist roots, and as far as she's concerned, those people are goyim, and goyim are not people, so it doesn't matter. They can be just put aside
unless there is a lasting peace, which does mean ending the occupation. Okay. And a policy of apartheid, okay, and ending the murder of Palestinian civilians, then this will never end.
Margaret. Well, all I would say is that Owen is completely and utterly ignoring what has happened over the last few days. You haven't ignored all.
Owen, just wait.
All you've talked about, Owen, is your obsession, the obsession with so many people around the issue around Palestine. It's been an obsession forever, and you should just think at the moment, if you were an Israeli sitting there, if you'd had family,
because that is what the intention is. It's to actually put people aside, be it by killing them or displacing them. I don't know any other country apart from Israel that can actually break international law with impunity for the last 70 years. But they can. That gives me a reason to ask, why on earth should anybody else abide by the law? Why? Why should Muslim countries and Arab countries abide by international law? Why is there an expectation that Hamas is supposed to abide by the rules of war, but at the same time they are terrorists, prescribed terrorists, but there's no expectation from the Israeli Defense Forces. There's absolutely no expectation to abide by the law. They've even given up paying lip service to it. You've got Israeli ministers talking about throwing nukes on Gaza. You've got Benjamin Netanyahu quoting the Torah and referring to the Palestinians as the Amalekites. And we know what happened to the Amalekites. Basically genocide. And various other figures, including President Biden, including Rishi Sunak, including Macron of France, even Trudeau of Canada doesn't want a ceasefire. They want the genocide to continue. So, brothers and sisters, even though we are heartened by the fact that pro-Palestine, pro-ceasefire marches have a big turnout, the fact of the matter is nothing's changed regarding the powers that be. Add into the mixture this Armistice Day controversy, where they are actually wanting to ban a protest for a ceasefire to celebrate a ceasefire. It can't get more ridiculous if you made it up. Israel's excuse is the occupier defending itself from the occupied, and now we have the new concept of banning a protest for a ceasefire to celebrate a ceasefire. I think that actually sums things up. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.